So, I don't know if you're gonna remember Friends. Friends is like one of the biggest shows that there ever was back in the 90s. And to be honest, I used to watch it all the time. So I found this, which is something which I wasn't aware of, which is why I almost had to replace the entire Friends cast, which seems crazy that they'd actually risk doing that. I think if they'd replaced the entire cast, there's no way anybody would have tuned in for a completely new arrangement, to be honest. Let me just move my mic. Right, is that a bit better? That's a bit better. So yeah, let's check it out.
Do you guys ever get the feeling that Chandler and those guys just don't get that we don't make as much money as they do?
This is Friends, and it's arguably one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. Audiences would tune in week after week to watch the antics of Chandler and Joey, the eccentric behaviors of Phoebe, the ambitious career undertakings of Monica, and the will they won't they relationship drama between Ross and Rachel.
I have to say, out of everyone on Friends, Chandler and Joey were my favorites.
Nearly came to a screeching halt when contract negotiations became increasingly hostile during the show's later seasons. Some of the cast came dangerously close to losing their roles on the show, and Friends, as a whole, was nearly canceled entirely.
It's like they're always saying, let's go here, let's go there. Like we can afford to go here and there.
Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to Nerdstalgic if you haven't done so already. Friends was seemingly an overnight.
Yeah, guys, check. I've seen one or two of his videos, and they're pretty good actually. I definitely recommend checking him out. So I'll put a link to him and his channel below. So yeah.
Success. If you grew up in the 90s, you're well aware that it's legitimately difficult to remember a time when this show did not exist.
Welcome to the...
You like Monica? Yeah, fair enough. Monica and Rachel are great. Yeah. Well, to be honest, the whole cast was great. I think the question is, who was your least favorite? And for me, might sound a little unfair, but for me, Phoebe was my least favorite. I really wasn't that interested in any storyline to do with Phoebe at all. And that's no attack. That's not an attack on Phoebe. I thought she was great. She wasn't as interesting as the rest of the cast. You had Chandler, who was really witty and funny. You had Joey, who was like really cool, but also really dumb. Monica, who had the sibling rivalry with Ross. Ross having the thing about dinosaurs. You know, so sadly for me, Phoebe was really not interesting. Even when she had a boyfriend and all the other things, it didn't really interest me.
The real world. It sucks. You're gonna love it.
The pilot episode aired on September 22nd, 1994, to a crowd of about 20 million viewers, and those numbers remained consistent until the show's final episode, which aired 10 years later.
I didn't know that. I thought the ratings went up. I thought they went up much higher than 20 million. Right, well, I've just Googled it, and apparently the average viewership was 25 million per season. And 56 million for the final episode. So,
in 2004 to a crowd of over 50 million people. The success of
56.
Friends can really be chalked up to the inimitable chemistry in the way the performers interact with one another. And chemistry can be an extremely powerful bargaining chip when it comes time to get new contracts signed.
I guess I just never think of money as an issue.
That's because you have it.
That's a good point.
For the
I'd love to know what Rachel's making at the end of her career, because she will be doing a lot more than Ross.
first season of Friends, each cast member was paid a modest $22,500 per episode. This seems like a fairly reasonable price for a cast of relatively unknown performers venturing into the proverbial dice roll that is a television show's first season. This started to take some turns toward the inequitable in the show's second season. By the start of season 2, it was well established that David Schwimmer's Ross and Jennifer Aniston's Rachel were going to be the primary focal point of the show, the leads, if you will. This led to the two
I'd have thought it could have been Chandler and Joey that were the main attraction to the show. Personally, I did know that Monica, or the person who played Monica, she was actually in the He-Man movie, which I like the He-Man movie. You may think it was a bit crap and a bit tacky, but actually, to be honest, I really like the He-Man movie. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
Two of them getting a significantly larger pay bump than the rest of the cast.
How about we'll each just pay for what we had, okay? It's no big deal.
Not for you.
Schwimmer and Aniston were each paid $40,000 for their performances in Friends' second season. Also included in this pay rate was Courtney Cox, who had a Fonzie deal built into her contract, which
A Fonzie deal?
basically stated that nobody on the show could make more than her.
I now want to find out about the Fonz and his show and that sort of thing.
However, the rest of the cast's salary remained stagnant at the previous rate.
We don't have as much money as you.
Okay.
I hear you.
We can talk about that.
They all made
Well, then.
millions. Oh yeah, they made millions from it.
Let's.
Due to the popularity of Friends and the frenzied obsession over the relationship between Ross and Rachel, movie offers began pouring in for both Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer. Their respective agents thought that by Ross and Rachel emerging as the leads of the show, it made sense that they should be asking for more money in order to remain on the show and not pursue these other opportunities. According to statements made by both Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox, this didn't feel fair to the rest of the cast.
We all felt 100%. We're all doing the exact same amount of work.
We all felt that way.
It was actually David Schwimmer who developed the idea for the cast to band together to negotiate their new salaries in an equitable manner. This is
Oh well, that's impressive. That's interesting because he didn't need to do that. He was getting paid more than everyone else, so that's actually a really decent thing of him to do.
known as collective bargaining, which can be defined as negotiation of wages and other conditions of employment by an organized body of employees. The idea being that a stronger negotiation could be made together rather than on an individual basis. The agreement made with the network was that every member of the principal cast would be paid $75,000 per episode, regardless of story importance or screen time, as Friends entered its third season.
We just have to really not let stuff like this about money get like. Is that a hickey?
That's a lot. I mean, the cast of Big Bang, they got paid a lot of money, like a lot of money for each episode. Especially the guy that played Sheldon, he got paid a fortune.
The cast also discovered that their negotiations could be strengthened by beginning them toward the tail end of the season. Waiting until that time meant that writers would be operating under the intense pressure of having to scrap together a lackluster ending to the series should negotiations go sour, and there was no way NBC was going to break their audience's trust in that way. They felt that since they were doing all the same amount of work, they should all be getting paid the same. Courtney Cox has stated in interviews that literally the entire cast felt that way, and not one of them would budge.
I thought it was the most important thing, as we all did, that we all were equal in every single way.
There were no men
Yeah, to be honest, I absolutely 100% agree. Absolutely agree with that.
no women, no leads, no supporting performers, just 6 people who wanted 6 equal salaries. By the time negotiations for the 4th season rolled around, things began to get a little ugly between the studio and the cast. The cast was demanding $100,000 per person per episode, and the studio was attempting to put their foot down. The cast had 2 things going for them at the time. One was that they had all banded together, so they were negotiating as a united front. 2, as a sort of ethically gray tactic, the cast began speaking about contract negotiations in the
Friends, go on strike for Rise. Cast members want $100,000 per episode. Wow, I never knew about that. I never heard about it. That was in 1996. So I was 16.
press, which put public opinion on the line as well. This didn't really sit well with the studio executives and lawyers who were sitting in the room at the time. NBC's Vice President of Business Affairs labeled the negotiation as completely insane. He was using the restroom in a restaurant when he got a phone call that the contract negotiations were starting at 10 p.m. This is a hardball negotiation tactic that borders on psychological warfare. Starting negotiations so late means that people get tired and frustrated and are more likely to bend just to get things over with.
I'd have gone for maybe 8 o'clock because I could have had a really nice dinner beforehand.
Negotiations didn't end until 3 a.m. and after that the studio had 2 promos made, one for a season finale and one for a series finale. The studio was weighing the option of whether or not to cancel the entire show. However, numbers don't lie, and despite the underlying frustrations of contract negotiations, there was still a lot of money to be made by keeping Friends running.
Yeah, and let's be honest, NBC must have made a lot of money from Friends. I'm sorry, but if you're making 20 or 100 million from Friends, then why would you cancel it? So I've checked and put it like this. Just for Warner Brothers selling the rights to do returns of Friends, so basically reruns of Friends, they make 1 billion a year from doing that. So it says Warner Brothers bring in 1 billion every year from syndication rights. So if they're making 1 billion just from syndication rights, can you imagine how much they're making actually per season when it was live? It would have been loads of money. So I think they should be asking for way more than 100,000. They could have easily got it. The idea of cancelling that would be absolutely insane.
How much do you think I can get for my kidney?
From that point on, the cast was able to effectively negotiate increasingly lucrative salaries every time the conversation came up. And then came the massive paydays. The cast was paid $750,000 per episode for seasons 7 and 8, and a walloping sum of $1 million per episode for the show's 9th and 10th season. On top of all that, Schwimmer's decision to bargain as a unit also led to an extremely lucrative deal for royalties through syndication, which, to this day, nets each member of the cast about $20 million.
Go David Schwimmer, what a genius. So not only did he get the entire the entire cast on the exact same wage, he also got royalty rights for afterwards, so they all get money after it's finished. And he also got them like really good pay rises. What a guy. I'm telling you what, if you're working somewhere and you've got a bloke like that with you, you do not want to lose that as a friend.
Per year for work they did over a decade ago. There would be a conversation to be had.
And they get $20 million a year for the work that they did previously.
About knowing your worth. However, Matt LeBlanc sees the situation in a little different light. If you're in a position in any job, no matter what the job is, if you're driving a milk truck or installing TVs or an upholsterer for a couch, if you're in a position to get a raise and you don't get it, you're stupid. Tongue-in-cheek comments aside, the sentiment holds true. When opportunity presents itself to a group of performers, they should by all means leap at the opportunity to put themselves in the most financially advantageous position possible. After all, it's called show business, not show friends.
Look, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry that we make more money than you, but we're not going to feel guilty about it. We work really hard for it.
Oh, and you feel like we hold you back?
Yes. No.
Negotiations can be a tricky thing, especially when you put millions and millions of dollars on the line. David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston's pay was separating them from that of their co-stars. And instead of taking the screw you, I've got mine approach to working together, Schwimmer opted to bring the cast together and
they made millions. Oh yeah, they made millions. But how much has Warner Brothers made? I mean, Jesus. Let's find out. So apparently, Warner Brothers has made an earth-staggering $4.8 billion from Friends. So I think paying them what they asked for, I think it was worth it.
Negotiate as a cohesive unit. In Matthew Perry's new memoir, he jokingly writes,
David had certainly been in a position to go for the most money, and he didn't. But his decision served to make us take care of each other. I owe you about $30 million, David.
The result was the cast getting compensated exorbitantly, and Friends persevered for nearly a decade. So, in the end, everyone won. And
yeah, I mean, to be honest, they all did really well from Friends, but I think Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer most probably did more film-wise. I know the one that played Monica, she did a number of Ace Ventura films, but she's not done much else. Movie-wise, that is. I know they've done a lot of TV shows, but yeah. Have you seen Courtney Cox's lips? Oh yeah, they're like, went through like a phase where her lips were huge and she's lost loads of weight and stuff, hasn't she? Yeah. But yeah, crazy money, man, crazy money.